Am I the jerk for still trying to stay friends with my best friend after his girlfriend had him block me? I, a 17-year-old female, have been best friends with Noah, a 17-year-old male, since we entered high school. I have only ever seen him as a brother. He asked me out a couple of times during our freshman year, and I rejected him every single time because I saw him like a brother. Despite this, we were extremely close. We often finished each other's sentences, knew what the other was thinking without saying anything, and were referred to as platonic soulmates. Our sophomore year, I had a friend named Jennifer, who was a freshman. I introduced the two of them, and they eventually started dating. While they were dating, I helped Noah create posters to ask Jennifer to homecoming. I drove across town twice to pick up a birthday gift for her from him. I helped to set up dates and take pictures. I put my time and energy into helping both of them, mostly Noah because guys often need more help with this kind of stuff, and I knew him longer and better. A couple of months ago, Jennifer asked me not to text Noah unless it was in a group chat with her or directly through her. This hurt a lot because Noah and I met before Jennifer even knew either of us, and we were such great friends. I tried my best to go with it because I wanted to keep them as friends. I ended up texting them because I thought it was unfair and a little ridiculous since I came to Noah about personal things in my life like family arguments. He often gave me good advice and was a good listener. This was rare. It wasn't like I was blowing up his phone. Jennifer said it was because they believed as Christians that guys and girls can't just be friends. As far as my friends and I know, I was the only one told not to text him. This caused some tension, but we were still having lunch together with two mutual friends and Jennifer. We were planning on going to prom together. We started making prom plans weeks before prom. We planned to go out for fast food before and meet at one of my friends' houses for pictures, and then we would head over for prom. Jennifer and Noah canceled on us in our prom group chat 2 days before prom and have since stopped talking to me. This has been super upsetting because Noah has been such a good friend to me, but I'm just not sure how to go about trying to fix our friendship since he has blocked me. I would appreciate any advice. I really want to still be friends with him because he is a really good person and friend. There are no jerks here, OP. If your friend blocked you, respect his choice and give him some space. It seems like Jennifer played a role, but it's also a conscious decision on his part. While men and women can definitely be friends, this might be a good time for everyone to take a step back and reassess boundaries. In the meantime, focus on yourself and other friendships. Things might work out differently in the future. Am I the jerk for getting my housemate's BF to move out of our place? I live with 3 people, 2 25-year-old females and 1 27-year-old male. One 25-year-old female has been with her boyfriend, a 46-year-old male, for about 18 months. In January, her boyfriend wanted to renew his lease, but his landlord declined because he wanted to sell the property. When the lease ended, the boyfriend stayed without a formal contract, essentially squatting while paying rent. This situation lasted for approximately 4 months. 2 months ago, at the start of May, the boyfriend couldn't pay rent as he was at the bottom of his overdraft, and the landlord made him leave. My housemate asked just the girls if the boyfriend could stay for 1 to 2 weeks. We agreed. That evening, I inquired about the logistics, and she said it would be for 1 to 2 weeks, and he had a viewing. She didn't know what to do but mentioned he needed to sort out some things in his life, especially regarding money. I was clear that it wasn't an ideal situation but understood. She didn't ask our 27-year-old male housemate, who moved out, semi-related. 6 weeks passed, and the boyfriend went to 1 viewing. He wasn't doing anything different from how he'd previously lived and worked, which had gotten him into this situation, but I didn't want to get into his business too much. My concern was that it had quietly shifted from a 1 to 2 week emergency to an indefinite stay without asking. This issue came up because we needed a new housemate. I said we need to know what's happening. She was receptive, but when I suggested a timeline of 6 more weeks, she said that was too short and claimed, "It's things like this that show how people can't get out of the mess they're in because everyone turns a blind eye and can be quite brutal." This really upset me as it had already been 4 weeks longer than we'd agreed, and I was proposing a timeline that would make it 12 weeks in total. To say this to us all felt really unfair. We had an argument, and she was adamant that we were cold-hearted for not accepting him indefinitely. I said a couple of flippant things I regret. We had another full-blown argument later where she was rude, personally insulted me, changed her story, and was volatile and aggressive. She thinks that because she's stressed and having to respond to his changing situation, despite not paying rent or bills for 2 months, he's apparently still at the bottom of his overdraft. We shouldn't be mad that we aren't getting asked about the developments. Our whole conflict could be its own "am I the jerk?" All I'll say is this has killed the friendship we'd had for 2 years since I moved in. She's agreed that he'll move out at the start of August in 3 weeks, whether he has a proper place or not. She's claiming God knows where he'll go. Am I the asshole? I don't want to make him homeless. I know he has a brother and lots of friends nearby, but I don't know if they have space, not that we do either. I also know there are decent resources and council help available in our area that he hasn't looked into. I know what the nice thing to do would be, but I feel like we're being taken advantage of, and don't think we should just have to roll over and allow whatever to happen in our home. You did the right thing. He's been taking advantage by living rent-free for 3 months when the original 1-2 weeks was a reasonable request. At his age, he should have his life together and not rely on his much younger girlfriend. Allowing him to stay indefinitely without contributing anything is completely unfair. Am I the jerk for not attending my parents' wedding? I, a minor female, and my dad have always had a good relationship, but things have taken a little turn. My dad and mom had a divorce in 2020. Things went smoothly, and they didn't really have anything against each other, or so I thought. Back then, I never really knew why this divorce happened because no one would tell me the full story. I really didn't like staying at my dad's house even though it was just the weekends, and we didn't do anything there, so I don't know what the problem was. In the summers, my mother, my brothers, and I would go to our summer house, which is about 7 hours away by car. I would not visit my dad during this time. In 2023, in the middle of July, my dad and my stepmother were getting married, and we knew this beforehand. I'll call my brother who wasn't an adult at this time brother 1, and the one who was an adult brother 2. My brothers and I went to my dad's house a few days before the wedding by bus. The night before the wedding, my dad asked, "Are you guys going to come?" My brother 1 and I responded with no gal a. My dad looked very shocked and broken. He kept telling us to come, but we always declined. My stepmother and I got along well at first, but now that I've grown up, I've grown to not like her a lot. She is way too nosy, noisy, and acts like my mother, even though she isn't. I know she is not trying to be mean, but I just don't like her. On the day of the wedding, brother 2 went to the wedding. I know brother 2 didn't want to go, but he is a big people pleaser, so he did. When they got back, my father kept telling me things to make me feel bad for not coming, rather guilt-tripping me. I just ignored it, but he makes me feel like I was a problem for not coming. Since then, I've kept some distance but still feel bad. Am I the asshole? Please be completely honest, and feel free to ask any questions. You were out of line. So, you fully acknowledge that your stepmom isn't doing anything with the intention of causing issues. You just don't like her for not much reason. You intentionally went to visit your dad right before the wedding, but didn't actually go to the wedding. Going to the wedding isn't about people-pleasing. It's about being a part of your dad's life, and you tossed that away because you didn't feel like it. Am I the jerk for being a clingy friend? For context, my ex-best friend, who is 17 years old and female, and I, also 17 years old and female, have been best friends for about 3 solid years. I was one of her few close friends in school. Let's call her B.I.s. We were basically inseparable during our school years, but after we finished our major exams and started our long break, this whole thing happened. This whole fiasco started around late December to mid-January. We had met up in December to hang out, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But nearing mid-January, she said that her WhatsApp had been glitchy, which made it hard for her to reply to messages, and that was the reason she hadn't been responding to me. I didn't question her reasoning as I didn't think she would have a reason to lie to me. Late January was when the ghosting started. I've always been the one reaching out to her. When I texted her, she would take days to reply, and her responses would always be curt. I was still under the impression that her WhatsApp hadn't been fixed. When she started acting like this, my first thought was that I had done something to upset her. I would ask her if I had done something wrong and if she was okay. Still nothing. February was when she stopped responding to everything throughout all her socials. Absolutely nothing from her, just radio silence. This goes on for a while, and I still try to excuse her behavior. One day, I see on her story that she's been going out with another friend of hers. Let's call her V. I asked another close friend of mine about this, and she said that B had gotten her WhatsApp fixed a while back, and that she doesn't even know why B is treating me like this. I find out that B has been lying to me. I'm shocked by this information and start to wonder why she's treating me like this. I know friendships between people who go to separate schools tend to naturally die out, but this was so sudden. As a last-ditch attempt to get answers, I contacted V and asked her how she was able to contact B. V said that she had been messaging B through WhatsApp perfectly fine. In hindsight, this seemed intrusive. The morning after, I get an angry message from B asking why I contacted V. I finally asked her about the status of our relationship, and she said we were still friends. Still hoping to cling to any hope, I accepted her answer. A month passes without any contact. I suddenly remember that B still has a book I lent her. I direct message her through her Instagram asking for the book back. No answer. A few weeks later, I direct message her again. Then I found out she blocked me on Instagram. In hindsight, it was obvious that B wanted to cut me off, but I was too overwhelmed at the time to see. I also wanted to try and preserve the friendship I had with her. To this day, I still don't know why she did what she did to me. If she wanted to stop being friends with me, I would have respected her decision if she gave me her reasons. Am I the asshole for trying to keep this friendship alive and being a clingy friend? It's really tough when friends start ghosting without any explanation. It's important to understand that sometimes, no matter how much effort one puts in, friendships can naturally fade away. It's also vital not to drag other friends into the middle of the situation, as it might make things worse. Ultimately, maintaining one's own integrity and being open to communication is key, but there's a point where accepting the end is necessary for personal peace. Am I the jerk for refusing to go to a great aunt's funeral? Looking for some input here. I'll type the scenario and my mental health and experiences from the past few months leading up to the funeral. My great aunt passed away recently. She was nice to my grandmother when her husband, my great aunt's brother, passed away. Apparently, she checked up on her and called her from time to time to see how she was. I met my great aunt maybe 5 or 6 times in my entire life. Her children are more than 20 years older than me with little to no contact with me. Half of them have not spoken to me in 8 years. The other half have not spoken to me in 12 years or more, even though we live in the same city. My sister and the rest of my family are going. My mother does not want me to go because of my mental health and a few paranormal experiences 60 days leading up to this. I have an anxiety disorder and sleep issues. I have also experienced 2 suicides, the loss of a best friend, and a psychedelic experience where I remembered childhood trauma that I had blocked from my mind over the past 2 years. Fast forward to April this year. My deceased grandmother visited me and I was overwhelmed from the experience. She mentioned facts I asked my mother about, and she was surprised at how I knew them. 2 weeks later, I had a dream with details unknown to me about a best friend's deceased grandfather without meeting him once at all. My best friend was in shock at how I knew this and believed his grandfather visited me in a dream. I had an encounter with a man who looked exactly like my great aunt's brother. He was a real person and confirmed with a witness. He spoke about things I needed to hear at that time. It was as if he was waiting for me at a bakery. It turns out his name didn't check out, and he didn't live in the retirement home he claimed to live in. From the time my deceased grandmother visited me to the time I met the grandfather clone, I had a fear of dying every night before I went to sleep until I met the grandfather clone. I also went to a therapist about it. My great aunt died 13 days later from the encounter. I am afraid if I go to the funeral I may lose it and freak out, as I almost had a psychotic break last December and had thoughts of self-harm months after the psychedelic experience revealed suppressed childhood trauma. My concern is that I am not in the mental state to go, and I simply said I cannot make it as I have work, which I sort of do. Am I the asshole because I would rather not relive the fear of dying or the psychotic break I had last December? Is it wrong to not go? I will be ready at some point to go to a funeral and will visit her grave and have made donations to causes her children are interested in. My sister is trying to make me feel bad, and I know my extended family with whom I have more contact is going to make a big deal about it. Am I the asshole in this situation? I think you are not in the wrong here. You had only met your great aunt a few times and didn't feel a strong connection to her. Given your mental health challenges, it's completely reasonable to prioritize your well-being over attending the funeral. Your family should understand that you need to take care of yourself first. Am I the jerk for keeping the money my friend paid me for food that I was never actually charged for by the restaurant? I, a 21-year-old female, had been friends with this friend, a 20-year-old female, for many years, probably about 7. Towards the end of high school, she all of a sudden began to only be concerned about popularity and getting in with the popular group. So naturally, we sort of drifted away. Fast forward, we both went abroad to university and occasionally saw each other over school breaks. She began having a falling out with each and every one of her friends from our hometown until eventually, I was seemingly her only friend left to hang out with over school breaks. She would often pick fights over nothing, which led to a lot of broken relationships. One day, she and I had an argument because she was basically demanding I pick a side in a fight she was in with one of my best friends, who picked me up when she basically left me for dead in high school for the popular group. I refused to take sides when, in all honesty, I was on my other friend's side, but just didn't want to cause an argument. She got fed up and decided she wanted a break from me for the entire summer. The end of summer rolled around, and she reached out and wanted to meet up for dinner to catch up. I said yes, thinking that we were just going to move on from whatever happened before between us and start anew. Nope. She came in with receipts and accusations as to why I was still a completely bad friend. We were at Chili's, and she had, of course, ordered the most expensive thing on the menu, the surf and turf. By the time our food came out, we were in a full-on yelling argument, and everyone around us was beginning to stare. She throws her hands up in the air and says, "I am so done with you," and storms out of the restaurant without paying for her food. The waitress, who we, funny enough, went to high school with and was in the popular group, saw what happened and thankfully took the charge of her food off my bill, and I left having only paid for mine. That night, I got a very passive-aggressive Venmo from my now ex-friend for her dinner titled Pain and Suffering. Because of everything I've gone through with her, I thought I deserved to just keep it because, at this point, she has already put me through so much. Not only that, but it would be beyond awkward to then send the Venmo back, given that she walked out on me at Chili's. So, am I the asshole for pocketing the money after the waitress comped my friend's meal after she dined and dashed? You are not the one at fault. Take this money as compensation for wasting your time. Consider it a parting gift and run. Sometimes a little extra cash can make walking away feel a bit better. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.